The storm had been howling for 3 cycles now, and Sierra knew the colony's outer districts were taking the worst of it. Through the reinforced viewport of her shelter, she watched the crimson dust clouds of Kepler 442b tear across the settlement's perimeter like hungry ghosts. The atmospheric processors hummed their defiant song against the wind, but even they seemed to strain under nature's fury. When the emergency beacon lit up her communications panel, Sarah didn't hesitate. The signal was weak, fractured by interference, but the coordinates placed it in Sector 7, the refugee district, where the Talari families had settled after their world burned. The Talari were a gentle species, barely 4 feet tall with luminescent fur that changed colors with their emotions. They had come to this human colony as survivors, their homeworld consumed by their own son's death throes. The humans had welcomed them, as they always did. Humanity had learned long ago that the galaxy was cruel enough, without adding to its cruelty. Sarah sealed her environmental suit and stepped into the maelstrom. The wind hit her like a physical blow, nearly knocking her off her feet. Sand peppered her visor, reducing visibility to mere meters. She activated her suit's navigation system, following the beacon's pulse through streets that had become rivers of dust and debris. Twice she had to anchor herself to building foundations, as particularly vicious gusts threatened to sweep her away. When she finally reached the coordinates, her heart sank. The habitat dome had collapsed. Its framework jutted from the ground like broken ribs. The transparent polymer shredded and scattered. Sarah's scanner detected no life signs in the immediate vicinity, but the beacon was still transmitting from somewhere beneath the wreckage. She began to dig. The debris was heavy, sharp, treacherous. Sarah's suit reported multiple small tears that the autoseal was struggling to keep up with. She ignored the warnings. Humans had not crawled up from Earth's harsh cradle to abandon those in need at the first sign of danger. 15 minutes into her excavation, she heard a small, frightened chirp. Sarah's hands moved faster, more carefully now. She cleared away a section of collapsed wall panel and found them. 3 Talari cubs, huddled in what had once been a reinforced closet. Their fur had gone completely white with terror, and they trembled violently in the cold. The largest one, barely the size of a human toddler, looked up at her with enormous violet eyes. Despite its fear, it positioned itself between Sarah and the 2 smaller cubs. "It's all right," Sarah said softly, knowing her translator would convey the tone if not the exact words. "I'm here to help." The cub, she would later learn his name was Talon, chirped something that her translator rendered as, "Mother said, humans keep promises. Did you promise to come?" Sarah felt something crack in her chest. "Yes," she said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. "We promised. Getting them out was harder than getting in." The cubs were weak from cold and fear, unable to walk steadily. Sarah's suit wasn't designed to carry passengers, but humans had always been good at improvisation. She opened her outer protective layer and bundled all 3 cubs against her body, wrapping them in the thermal lining of her emergency blanket. They fit, barely, their small forms pressed against her torso. Talon's eyes widened as he felt her warmth. "You're hot," he said, wonder replacing some of his fear. "Endothermic," Sarah explained, beginning the journey back. "We make our own heat. Hold on tight, little ones." The return trip was a nightmare. With the added weight and bulk, every step was a battle. The wind seemed to have grown angrier, as if offended by her defiance. Twice she fell. 3 times her suit's integrity warnings became critical. But she kept moving, 1 foot in front of the other. Because that's what humans did. They endured. Talon talked to her the whole way, his small voice keeping her focused. He told her about his mother, who had gone to the colony center for supplies. He told her about his siblings' names, Mira and Kess. He told her that his mother said humans were strange creatures who smiled when things got difficult and laughed at danger. "Is that true?" he asked, as Sarah stumbled over another piece of debris. "Sometimes," Sarah grunted, regaining her balance. We're not fearless, Talon. We just decided a long time ago that being afraid wasn't a good enough reason to stop trying. When they finally reached the shelter, other humans were waiting. The storm had begun to break, and rescue teams had mobilized. Medical personnel took the cubs gently from Syrah's arms, rushing them to warmth and care. She collapsed against the wall, her suit finally giving up with a series of angry beeps. An hour later, after medical had cleared her, and she'd showered away 3 layers of red dust, Sarah found Talon in the recovery ward. He was bundled in heated blankets, his fur slowly returning to its natural blue-green color. His mother sat beside him, her own fur rippling with colors, Syrah's database identified as profound gratitude. Talon saw her, and his fur brightened to a brilliant gold joy, pure and simple. "The human came back," he announced to his mother, "just like you said she would." His mother approached Syrah, and in the formal style of her people, she placed her small hand over her heart. "Our people have a saying," she said, in carefully practiced standard. "We say that the universe is cold and vast, and in it, most species look after their own, but humans." She paused, her fur shimmering with emotion. "Humans look after everyone." Sarah knelt down, so she was eye level with Talon. The cub reached out and touched her face with his tiny 3-fingered hand. "Why did you come?" he asked. "You could have stayed safe." Sarah thought about all the humans throughout history who had run into burning buildings, who had stood between the innocent and harm, who had reached out their hands even when it cost them dearly. She thought about the simple, stubborn truth that had carried humanity from the caves to the stars. "Because you needed help," she said simply. "And because someone once did the same for me, or my ancestors, or someone like us. We humans remember that. We remember that we're all just trying to survive in a universe that doesn't make it easy. So we help. It's what we do." Talon's fur shifted to a color Syrah had never seen before, something like deep purple mixed with starlight. Her translator struggled for a moment, before settling on a single word: hope. Outside, the storm had passed. The first rays of Kepler 442b's sun broke through the thinning clouds, painting the settlement in shades of amber and rose. In the recovery ward, 3 small cubs slept safely, wrapped in human-made blankets, their breathing steady and peaceful. And Syrah smiled, because sometimes the universe was cruel. But sometimes, just sometimes, it allowed small moments of grace. And humans, stubborn and caring and impossibly determined, would always be there to ensure those moments existed for anyone who needed them. The galaxy was vast and cold and often uncaring, but wherever humans went, they brought warmth with them,